The service life of a DuraTip, what makes it different is it has like new performance over a full 3 millimeters of wear. That means as the tip wears down, the sweep stays uniform.
Having a system in place really starts with that standard operating procedure, because you don't want the Pointer Sisters to show up and say, oh, I thought he was going to do it. Oh, I thought she was going to do it. And then the ball gets dropped, it doesn't get done. And then you're working with inserts that maybe not performing the way that you want them to perform. And the risk for that, of course, is burnish calculus, continued disease.
Most manufacturers, when they bring out a product, they will tell you, if you use someone else's insert in our product, we can't guarantee that it will work. When you use someone else's insert in our product, your warranty may not be valid. So Parkell says, use your favorite inserts, even if they're not from Parkell yet.
A tale of two hygienists.
And welcome back, listeners, to our bonus episode brought to you by our friends in Parkell. And in this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, we are digging in deeper about some fascinating instruments that we have to our disposal. And just give us a little bit more information about what we're going to be talking about today, today's bonus episode.
Well, we're going to be talking about a clinical innovation made by our dear friends Noel and Richard Paschke. And I'm going to introduce you to Noel and Richard. If you haven't been listening for the past 2 weeks, this may be your first introduction. And so I'm going to give you the nitty-gritty on the Paschkes. Many of you know Noel as an RDH, who is the first dental hygienist at the Johns Hopkins Hospital and the first RDH appointed to the medical school faculty. She also taught at the University of Maryland Dental School, where the students selected her as Instructor of the Year, and many years in corporate as Education Director at 3 different international companies: Dentsply, Cavitron, Philips Sonicare, and Acteon. She was the winner of the Denobie Award and Sunstar Award of Distinction, which is a big deal, as well as a patent holder inventor. And Rich is also a patent holder inventor. He has a master's degree in industrial engineering and a bachelor's in physics. He was trained in the Air Force in microwave relay communication and later to build missiles to shoot down SAM sites. That's service to air missiles, kind of like in Top Gun movies. He's pretty cool. His call sign was actually 007, which I don't think anything could make Rich cooler, but that was an extra step in the cool direction, and to only be topped by the fact that Rich is the inventor and patent owner of what we're going to be talking about today, the DuraTip, to which, thanks to Parkell, is the manufacturer and distributor. And we're going to talk about why DuraTip is so amazing. And Rich, please tell me, what problem in the dental hygiene world did DuraTip solve?
Well, thank you for asking that question. Basically, all ultrasonic inserts have a similar characteristic of wear performance. What that means is, as a tip wears down as little as 1 millimeter, the sweep of the amplitude drops 25%. When it loses 2 millimeters of wear, the sweep drops 50%. In the DuraTip, designed the DuraTip to have uniform energy transfer throughout its service life. The service life of a DuraTip, what makes it different is it has like new performance over a full 3 millimeters of wear. That means
That's
as the
incredible.
tip wears down, the sweep stays uniform. It also has a non-reflective surface, which decreases eye strain, and all DuraTips can be used at all power settings.
So from a clinical standpoint, that's something that I really like, because, we have to try to memorize. And again, people are using they could be using 2 different technologies, but related to people who are using magneto in particular, that the manufacturers will say, well, this particular tip needs to be low to medium, or, this tip you can use all the way up to high. And so as a clinician, you have to start memorizing what can I do? When can I do it? What's the clinical application? And we have so much on our minds. We're multitasking. We're doing so many things at the same time and doing it very well as being medical professionals and being able to take in all this information and to deliver appropriate care for our patients. But I always say, like, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if I could just use the insert on any power level I wanted to, whenever I wanted to? And the answer to that is yes. And
So
so I
you're
was
not changing the inserts that you can use at those power levels. You have the same insert, and all you have to do is change the power level.
right, and within the procedure, if I wanna change it, yes, I
Yeah.
can do that, and so that makes it, much easier for me to then stay engaged with the patient, deliver the care, concentrate on the root morphology, concentrate on the instrumentation and what I'm doing, so that I'm not thinking about, "Oh my gosh, well, what color is this insert grip, and what power setting do I use it on? I don't know." And of course, we do know from our education that if you use, an insert, or if you're using piezo, and a tip, if you use it outside of the power range that the engineers designed it for, what the risk is tip fracture. None of us want to ever, ever, ever have tip fracture. So having that confidence level of I can use it on any power setting I want, ready, set, scale, go. So it does make it a lot easier for the clinician.
What about the engineering portion of it, Rich? What makes it what makes the door tip so different from like other ones that we've seen out there?
I think there are a couple of things that differentiate it. One, we started with the stack. The stack has a unique shape that's stiffer, that minimizes handling damage. So what that means is we don't want you to take a brand new insert out of the box and by just grasping the stack of it, damage or lessen the output sweep of the insert. So we've strengthened the stack. So that's where it starts. The transfer into the thing that we call the connecting body, which connects the energy source, which is the stack, to the working tip, is the secret sauce. That's where the patent really lies. And what it does is it adjusts the operating frequency and stroke output so that it stays relatively constant regardless of the tip wear.
That's amazing.
That's what I think too. I think everybody needs to use these, right?
I'd agree. And we talked about how it makes it little easier for the clinician if you are doing a procedure and say I'm working on someone that I don't need to change a tip to like a right or left. I don't have a lot of opportunity for complex anatomy. That's a relatively healthy patient, but I come across a more tenacious piece of calculus. All I have to do is change that power, and that's amazing,
Right.
and I don't have to
Yeah.
do that. But there
Yeah.
are times that I'm going to be working on a more complex case, and I'm going to need a more a more complex instrument
Mhm.
for this complex case. And
Mhm.
as an educator, you have solved already a number of problems with the DuraTip, but you've also solved another one, and it is how difficult it is to teach which right and left insert to use where. I
Right.
have heard things like hold them up like beetle antennas and the one that looks like
That's cute. I like that. Beetle
yeah,
antennas.
yeah,
Okay.
beetle antennas, but it's so confusing
Mhm.
for a clinician. How did you fix that for us?
Well, I think that goes back to the engineering design. And Rich, why don't you talk about the terminal end and how the door tip is different from other inserts?
Well, one of the things that all DuraTips share is they have contra angles. A contra angle gives you better adaptation for all your treatments. And the second thing that's differentiated on this particular left and right is that the terminal angle is more open. You'll find some tips in the field that have a very close terminal angle, and the risk is that if that angle goes beyond 90 degrees, you risk gouging the root surface when you're working subgingivally.
And so that's really why, and this actually happened when we both worked at Dentsply many years ago, is that there was a clinician, a dentist, a periodontist. In fact, he said that, we think that the Dentsply tips that in particular, that's what was available at the time. He Freedy hadn't come on the market yet with ultrasonic tips or inserts rather. And he said, you need to make sure that people are not gouging the tooth surface. And so actually he came up with this idea of, if it's right, it's wrong. Well, it's like, wait a minute, if it's right, it's wrong. But if it's wrong, why am I using it? And so to your point, Jess, like trying to teach this as as an instructor and having people understand. So the great thing about what Rich did in that terminal third of the insert tip was to open it up, kick it out just a little bit more so it's not coming curving back around for the potential gouge. So
Mhm.
you could almost use it as if it were a universal curette. You start in the upper right buccal, and then you proceed to do your contralateral surfaces with that one. With that insert. And then what's really great about it is that you're not having to parse every word of if it's wrong, it's right. Because the method had been, I'll put the point on the occlusal of the lower right buccal, and if it points towards the left, points towards the lingual, then I'm going to use it on the right. That's like way too much for me to figure out. I mean, it's just, for me anyway. So that's what I was really excited when he came up with this, that it's kicked out just a little bit, because I think in teaching and then in the application of this is that most of us learned hand instrumentation first. So our brains
Mhm.
say, oh, well, how can we have this transferable concept? How is it similar to what I already know? And we're using in adult education, we're using those building blocks to then go on to the next step with power scaling. So I think that's another really innovative part of this design. Yes, like new performance up to 3 millimeters. And then also the actual design itself with how that terminal third kicks out just a little bit.
And you've color coded them.
Yeah. So here's the thing with the color coding is that so currently there are four designs that are available. So there's a universal slim, there's a
Mhm.
perio slim, and then there are a perio slim left and right. And so the perio slim left and right. So the right is red and the lime is left. I love alliteration. I mean, that's so it's just a lot easier to remember where you're supposed to start using it. So for example, so the right, the red one, the Perio Slim right, I would start on the upper right buckle and do those surfaces. Then I would jump over contralaterally to do the maxillary left lingual, then down to the lower left buccal, then the lower right lingual. So I could. So here's the thing: you hear people say, "I don't want to change an insert." If you only have to change it one time,
Mhm.
and by that
Mm.
time, I mean, how many think about this? How many times have you had a patient where you're doing full mouth scaling, whether it's hand or ultrasonic, that you never stop?
Mhm.
And the answer to that, of course, is never.
It would be really bad ergonomically as well,
Yes,
so
for like get every
it
checkbox out and check, 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 check. Yeah. So, by the time you do all of the surfaces with let's say the red right, it's time to switch to the lime left. You breathe a little bit, the patient breathes a little bit, and
Mhm.
then you can continue on. And so it just becomes, you think about a double-ended hand instrument. It's almost like that. It's almost like
It
it's a
is.
double end. It is.
I was thinking
Again,
about
transfer.
I was thinking about the Explorer, I'm like, "That's the same thing."
Yes,
I
yes,
would
right.
use the same
Mhm.
same thing.
Yep. So it's a transferable concept, and like, don't we love to do things we already know how to do,
Yes.
and then just transfer that learning to using an instrument like this.
I would argue it's actually even more beneficial, right? Like it's a reminder for us to kind of take a break and like reassess and check our posture and use the right tools. Now, with these amazing instruments, I have to imagine when I get my hands on these guys, I'm not gonna probably stop using them. Is there these are so good. Or is there gonna be a performance guide versus like a wear guide? How do I know that I'm overusing them and wearing them out? When is it time for me to like get more, if that makes sense?
Because it sound like they're gonna last forever.
Well, they don't last forever. We can tell you that they don't last forever, but
Yeah, so here's the scoop on that. If again, when we're looking at a new paradigm in cleaning, we also want to refocus on performance rather than wear, uh, because wear isn't what we're looking for. We're looking for performance, aren't we? So if you take a traditional insert and you're measuring it against wear, you're saying, "Oh my gosh, when I took it out of the box, that's as good as it's ever going to get." And every time I look at this tool or this card, that sometimes is difficult to line up because there's a picture or an image or an edge you have to align. But every time you're looking at it, said, oh my gosh, it's wearing more and more and more. On a performance guide, what we're looking at is one single line. You don't have to say, did it cross the red line? Did it cross the blue line? Up to 3 full millimeters, you're going to get like new performance. So you don't have to worry about the wear. Your performance is guaranteed until you get that 3 millimeter line. Now, each one of the performance guides is also color coded to match
The tip.
the grip color of the insert. They're autoclavable. One of the challenges that we heard about competitive wear guides is put them in a drawer. Where are they when you need them?
Who knows?
Um, Exactly.
Right.
So we made these performance guides small, autoclavable. You can autoclave them along with your insert so you always know where they are. And in addition, to make it easy to make that measurement, there is an indentation or a groove in the performance guide so that you can match your insert up. It just naturally falls inside this groove, and you don't have to say, am I in the right position or not? It automatically aligns it for you.
And it's color coded. The grip is color coded to the performance guide. So you don't have to wonder, oh, am I doing this right? We try to take as much guesswork out of it as possible. And I'll tell you one, I think a really good reference article to this would be one that we wrote for RDH magazine in the March issue. And it's called Worn Out, Work Smarter, Not Harder with Your Ultrasonic Inserts and Tips. And it does do a comparison between different manufacturers, but it shows a very clear picture of the DuraTip with the performance guides and how the inserts are put into the channel. And you can see how they just snugly fit right in there. And it's very easy to tell where the measurement is. So again, it's just how can I improve my workflow? How can I do things as efficiently as possible? But I think another thing to think about is that we do need to have a system in place for measurement.
Yeah, it's so I think it's amazing. I'm looking at it right now, and it's exactly what you guys are describing. Maybe it's a little bit smaller than a film X-ray. If you guys ever remember what a film
It
X-ray
is.
is, yeah,
Yes. No, you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
and it
Yeah.
says it right there that it is autoclavable. The measurements of the 3 millimeters and the groove. It looks like I just thank you so much because little things like this go a really long way in everyday
Yeah.
life.
Right.
And making
Yeah.
it easier to have a standard operating procedure. And
Mhm.
what would you recommend the standard operating procedure look like to make sure that you are getting the most out of a
Mhm.
DuraTip?
Yeah, and that question goes for even if you don't have DuraTip yet, and let's say you have other inserts that you're trying to measure. I mean, some of these things are the same regardless of whether you have the DuraTip or not. We hope that you will. But the very first thing that I recommend, and again, this is in the same article in that RDH March 2026 issue, and I know Dave, you're going to put that in the chat notes, the show notes,
Mhm.
that in having a system, the very first thing, step one is have a standard operating procedure. And some people say, what are you talking about? We don't have a notebook that has all our standard operating procedures. So let's say you don't have one of those. Well, create this as your first page. And in that page, you're saying who is going to do it, when they're going to do it, who's responsible for being informed that you need to have tip replacement. And so having a system in place really starts with that standard operating procedure, because you don't want the Pointer Sisters to show up and say, oh, I thought he was going to do it. Oh, I thought she was going to do it. And then the ball gets dropped. It doesn't get done. And, then you're working with inserts that maybe not performing the way that you want them to perform. And the risk for that, of course, is burnish calculus, continued disease, all of those sorts of things. So having that checklist is really important. Step two is getting the appropriate guide, whether it's a performance guide or a wear guide from the manufacturer. So the great news about the DuraTip is that every single insert comes with the color coded performance guide for that tip. And I think Rich just mentioned it a little bit. You can put it in the sterilization pouch. You can put it in your cassette, and think of them as friends. I've got my insert and I've got my performance guide, and they like to be together. They like to hold hands. They like to be together. So I'm not searching through the drawer and going, oh, why isn't this insert working? I got to, no, I got to figure out how to line it up. And, you don't have to go through all that rigmarole. So let's just review very quickly. So we have our standard operating procedure. So we know who is going to do it, when they're going to do it, who the decision maker is on replacement, who's going to actually place the order. And then as we progress along in this, that we are looking at the alignment being the key, which is very easy with the DuraTip, with the performance. indicators that you can tell because of the color coding, because of the channel, and it only has one line on it. There's no need. Here's the cool thing. There's no need for 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters because it's still performing at 1 millimeter loss, 2 millimeters loss. So it only has one line for that 3 millimeters. So I think that's something that is just critically important to have. So having that checklist is one thing that I think will aid people in being at their top level performance, and they can have a lot of confidence when they're using DuraTip that they're providing a really great service for their patients.
Absolutely. And if this isn't their first page in their standard operating procedures book, it could be the second page of maybe their sharpening procedure.
Yeah,
So when you're
right.
sharpening,
Mhm.
and I'll tell you what, having my stone and my test stick in the cassette
Yes.
of my instruments has
Yes.
increased the probability of me sharpening. And so having that performance guide in the cassette is a game changer.
I love that. And again, transferable concept of this is what we do with my hand instruments to maintain them. This is what I do with my power instruments to maintain them. And so I think that's a really, really good tip, Jess.
One of the things I want to add too that we considered with our performance guides is that when you wear a tip back 3 millimeters, is it going to stop working? Absolutely not. It's still going to perform really well. But we want to replace it even though it's still performing well because as the 3 millimeters is worn off, the adaptation has changed.
Mm.
So with 3 millimeters less of tip, there's it's more difficult to get to the points and clean exactly, even though it might have the sweep, it doesn't have the access and adaptation any longer.
And as a clinician, Noelle, how important is adaptation?
It is everything. And so again, this is, we're providing a medical service, a medical procedure. It happens to take place in the mouth, but that means that as professionals, as healthcare professionals, we do need to understand the anatomy, not only coronally, but we need to understand the anatomy subgintivally and that root anatomy. And that is absolutely critical that we understand again the technology that we're using so that we do have the correct adaptation, the correct angulation, or I refer to it as the tilt. I mean, all of those things go into ultrasonic scaling. It's not just this stick it in and swirl it around sort of thing. It does require expertise. It does require hand skills. It does require us to think.
Yeah, it brings up a good point that like I've never met a hygienist that wants to be less efficient or more worn out in their skills, right? We always want to be
Right.
sharp.
Yes.
We always want to be the
Right.
best
Yeah.
that we can be. We always want to
Yeah.
make sure that we do the right thing for the right reason for patient care, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
with all
Mm-hmm.
of this said, you guys, is the DuraTip something that I can kind of use? Do I have to change my unit itself, or can I just replace my tip? How does that work if I have a specific unit?
Actually, DuraTips are designed to work in all ultrasonic scalars for 30 kilohertz models,
So the magneto.
Awesome.
for all the magneto, of
Right.
course. One of the other things, this is a subtle characteristic, but we know that when you scale either with piezo or magneto, you want to use a light pressure. And although the pressure is varied in some literature, I think 25 grams is probably a good number to throw out there. And one of the advantages of DuraTip is when you load the tip at 25 grams, the sweep actually increases slightly. So instead of losing cleaning power, you maintain it or gain it slightly. And it's not a huge gain, but the idea was if it's gaining a little bit, at least you're not going to be sacrificing under a loaded condition.
And Rich, for us that aren't physicists or engineers, can you tell us what 25 grams would equate to?
Absolutely, I can actually. If you take your thumbnail and press slightly against it to when it blanches, that's approximately 25 grams.
So the other thing too that we say is it's similar to probing. So probing's at about 20 grams. So 20, 25 grams in that range is about the amount of pressure that you should be using. So that's a cue. So if you feel like you're pushing too hard, that is a cue to you to say, okay, do I need to increase the power, or is possibly the insert or the tip worn? And ask, and I'll show. But that requires discernment. That requires me to
Okay.
think through and do the problem solving. not just continue on with the procedure. But Dave, you mentioned about could it be used basically? Can these inserts be used with other units or different units? And so the answer to that is absolutely yes. We're also thrilled. This was not a project that we worked on, but we're really thrilled that the folks at Parkell came up with a brand new unit called a Turbo Sensor Plus 360. And so it is new to the market, and it has a lot of the features. What they did is they incorporated a lot of the features from some of their original units, and then just really, I would say, emphasize some of the other features that they have in this new unit. And of course, you can use DuraTip with their new unit, which is absolutely great to have both together from one manufacturer.
Is it true that they have like a cruise control feature? Is it what is it like? It's driving itself? Like what does that mean? The
Is this the Tesla?
is
I
this
was
The
gonna
Tesla
say
of
that's
ultrasonic
that's
units?
what I was gonna say. It's not like a Tesla when you're at the restaurant and it's raining and you ask the car to come pick you up at the door. No, it does not do that. So the cruise control is actually an ergonomic feature that when you press the cruise button that's on the front panel, that then activates it. That on the foot pedal, then you can press on the foot pedal, and then you can, when you take your foot off of it, it will continue to work. So it's just that you're not using that constant pressure on the foot pedal to activate the unit. So that's how the cruise control works.
That's a great idea. I mean, sometimes I find myself where I have to stand and it becomes
Mm.
tiring when I'm standing and pressing on the pedal at the same time. But with that cruise control feature,
Mhm.
sounds like there's a missing link there. I'm almost like I should may or may not say this out loud, but if my current unit breaks, now I know what to do. Now I know what to do. What other features does this Turbo Sensor Plus 360 have?
Well, that's interesting. One of the things I want to mention, people could look at the Model 360 and say, well, you know what? They've copied a lot of features from other systems. But one of the things about Parkell, their reputation is when first they're all made in the USA. Second, they're reliable. They're workhorses.
Mhm.
And now with the addition of the Turbo 360, it becomes a thoroughbred. So while some of the units out there might be able to run the Kentucky Derby, they could never make the Belmont Stakes because it's more grueling. Where you can count on this turbo sensor. So the key word for it, if you had one word to describe it, is reliability.
Mm.
And I would say the one word, in addition to the reliability and it deals with, is confidence. It's a confidence builder for me as a clinician because I know it's going to deliver. I know it's going to work. I love the horse racing analogy. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, where the Preakness is held every year, and so the idea of, yeah, you have a workhorse, but now you have a thoroughbred. And so with this unit, you can get those premium features that other units have, but at a very affordable price. And so it makes it something that's very attractive to practice owners and also attractive to clinicians that they're going to still have premium features on this unit.
Well, one of the premiumest of premium features that I like is infection control.
Yeah. Mhm.
We are entrusted by our community that we are caring for them, and I would like to know how the turbo sensor, how it helps me be confident in infection control.
So there's a couple features on it that speak to that. So first of all, with the detachable autoclavable handpiece. And so, that's a feature that is to me is kind of like a no-brainer. It just has to have it, and it does. The other features that has to do related to the water lines. And so it has an auto purge. It also has a feature where in between, so that you can use that beginning of the day, end of the day, in between patients, which that's a very, very convenient thing to do. And also in the water lines that you can use other Parkell products like Pure Clarity related to the water lines. So it has just intuitively in how this was designed to understand that infection control is really absolutely necessary, and it checks the boxes off on that.
I want to read something from their ad, which I find compelling. Most manufacturers, when they bring out a product, they will tell you if you use someone else's insert in our product, we can't guarantee that it will work.
Hmm.
When
Mhm.
you use someone else's insert in our product, your warranty may not be valid.
Mhm.
They're threatening. They're not reassuring you. And again, these are medical devices. They're not, you know, little walkie-talkies you pick up at Radio Shack. So let me
So
read
yeah,
this.
what's Parkell say?
So Parkell says, use your favorite inserts, even if they're not from Parkell yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what they're telling you is this system will optimize performance of your insert regardless who manufactures it.
Right.
And that
So
is a huge, huge relief
Mhm.
as a
Yes.
clinician,
Mhm.
because I'll tell you what, when you are making decisions that have to do with someone else's money,
Mhm.
you have
Yeah.
to think you're looking at those IFUs and you're looking at those guarantees, and you're not going to be purchasing something that will potentially null and void an investment. So Parkell is really giving the clinician a confidence that
Yes.
instead of replacing your unit and every insert that you have,
Yeah.
you are replacing the unit and continue to use the inserts that are
Mhm.
still viable.
Right, and you may have a favorite insert that's not made by Parkell, and they're
Yet.
acknowledging that, and they're saying, "That's quite all right because it will work just fine."
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, it feels liberating. It feels like guilt-free dental hygiene. It's like, wow, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now
We
let
haven't
me
we
get to the
haven't
job.
we have enough to lay on a guilty conscience. We don't we don't we don't
Yeah.
need to add any more.
No,
We
we don't.
we're
We don't.
we wanna diminish the guilt by giving really good care, and I
Yeah,
appreciate Parkell giving us an opportunity to make the most of what we have.
absolutely.
There is one other thing that this system offers that, it's an option, but other manufacturers don't necessarily offer that option. Right now, 30 kilohertz is the dominant frequency
So 30K.
preference
So if someone say, I want a
for
30K
30K
or 30.
insert or 30K handpiece. And so the 25K systems are not as popular as they used to be. So
Oh,
some
I have a drawer of 25K inserts that we don't
Guess
use.
what? Listen to this news, Jess,
this has a 25K autoclavable handpiece.
that you can purchase.
What?
Yeah. So you can do it
Wow.
at
And you
30.
don't have to change your system, don't have to change anything, just plug in your 25K handpiece, and you can use all your 25K inserts.
Yeah.
Try that on a competitive system.
No, don't.
Not gonna happen.
No, it'll void my warranty, Rich.
Well,
It'll void my
won't fit.
warranty.
It won't fit because they will not have they've discontinued, in a lot of cases, their 25K systems because they weren't considered to be popular enough to maintain.
Right.
That is
Yeah.
so empowering. I can't even replace my refrigerator's filter without the same brand, without avoiding my warranty.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to use that analogy. That's
Yes.
great. I love it.
So I appreciate you guys spending time with us and talking to us about these amazing products. And I'm so excited that hygienists listening to this and their doctors and potentially their office managers, that when we think about upgrading our skills, it's a no-brainer. But when we upgrade our instruments, there's a little bit of pushback. But being able to kind of have all this information out there and saying that we can interchange tips and handles, and we can use the tips that we're used to in order for us to still do well with our patients, I think it's a huge impact. I
Mhm.
appreciate you guys so much for spending some time with us today.
It's been such a pleasure to be with
Yeah.
both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure to be with the professional Paschkes professional Paschke powerhouse. How's that for your alliteration?
Woohoo! Okay, I'm going to have to practice
There's
that.
an alliteration for you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Oh,
guys.
thanks. We'll see you soon in National Harbor for RDH Under One Roof.
See you then.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap on today's episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast. If this conversation made you feel seen, inspired, or even just a little fired up, share it with a fellow hygienist or fellow dental professional. Share it with your neighbors, your friends. Share it with everyone. That is how this community grows.
Make sure you subscribe, leave us a review, and connect with us on social media so that we can keep on going with this conversation. Remember, your career, your voice, and your story matter here. We're David,
And Jessica,
and until next time.
keep learning, keep laughing, and keep showing up for yourself and for each other.
This has been a production of Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B.